For the last 50 years, or honestly, probably even longer, bridal fashion has been ruled by this one, unspoken law.
Right, the expectation to just blend in.
Exactly. Make the bride look smaller,
Yeah.
shrink the waist, bare the shoulders, and craft the silhouette that gracefully and quietly blends into the aisle.
It was entirely about suppression, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
Traditional bridal wear was designed to fit the wearer into this uniform, understated box. It heavily prioritized tradition over any real sense of the wearer's actual personality or their physical presence in the room.
Yeah, we all know the standard playbook. You walk in, the music swells, and there is this expectation of a very specific, almost ghost-like vision in white lace.
Totally. You're supposed to be floating, not really taking up space.
But if you are stepping out into the aisle in 2026, the era of shrinking yourself is officially over. Brides today are, well, they're essentially weaponizing fabric to do the exact opposite.
They really are.
You are quite literally taking up space. You aren't just walking down the aisle anymore, You are engineering an entrance with a silhouette that demands attention before you even reach the altar.
It's a huge shift.
It is.
Wow.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are exploring this massive architectural shift in bridal fashion, and we are pulling our insights entirely from the articles section of the Weddizer website.
Which is really the ideal lens for this specific shift.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Weddizer has firmly established itself as the definitive platform for navigating highly specific, niche wedding styling.
Yeah, they really go deep on the details.
Exactly. When a trend moves away from subtle details and toward these massive structural garments, you need more than just, a few inspiration photos.
Right, you need actual guidance.
You need a mechanical and stylistic playbook, which is exactly what their articles provide for these niche events.
And structural is the perfect word here. Today's specific focus from the Weddizer fashion guides is the absolute takeover of exaggerated sleeves.
Oh, they're everywhere right now.
We're looking at puff, bishop, and sculptural designs. We all know how easy it is for sleeves to become an afterthought, right?
Yeah, like a quick addition for modesty.
Or a barrier against a winter draft, exactly. But Weddizer's latest data shows they have completely mutated from a simple accessory into the architectural foundation of the entire gown.
It's wild to see.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we get into the wild geometries of these fabrics, we really have to understand the philosophy driving this.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the data from Weddizer suggests that these exaggerated sleeves are intentionally bold focal points.
They aren't an accident.
Not at all. They are designed to create this couture-inspired, high-fashion aesthetic while actually solving a practical problem at the same time.
So it's form and function.
Exactly. You are getting stylish, sophisticated coverage, whether that's for modesty, temperature control, or, simply personal comfort.
Right.
But you're getting it without sacrificing visual impact. It is a complete inversion of the old rules where coverage meant hiding the bride.
That makes me think about how we approach everyday styling. Is the statement sleeve essentially the bridal equivalent of a bold red lip?
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Like, you keep the rest of your face completely neutral, your outfit relatively simple, and that one single dramatic feature does all the heavy lifting for your look.
Right.
It anchors everything else,
That analogy perfectly captures the Weddizer styling philosophy, honestly.
Wow.
It is a singular, powerful choice.
Mm-hmm.
By isolating the drama to the sleeves, designers can keep the bodice and the skirt relatively streamlined. The contrast between a really fitted bodice and a massive, explosive sleeve is what creates that high-fashion editorial feel.
It's so striking.
It really is. It elevates a standard dress into a piece of wearable art.
But, okay, let me push back on the motivation here just a bit.
All right.
Because the sources emphasize that these sleeves are incredibly effective for, quote, visual storytelling and photos. Does this imply that the modern bride cares more about curating the perfect Instagram grid than the actual physical experience of the ceremony? Like, are we just structurally engineering garments for the algorithm now?
I can see why it sounds like that, but if we connect this to the bigger picture, the data from Weddizer suggests the exact opposite, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It isn't about the algorithm. It is fundamentally about self-expression.
Okay.
Historically, putting on a wedding dress meant putting on a uniform. You were conforming to a societal standard of what a bride was supposed to look like.
Right. The quiet, subtle ghost in white lace.
Exactly. The exaggeration of the sleeve is a visceral rejection of that uniform. It is a bride using the physical space she occupies to say, this is my personality, amplified.
I love that.
The photos are merely the medium capturing a story that the bride is already living in the moment. It's not for the photos. The photos just happen to look amazing because of it.
Personality amplified. I love that framing. Let's
Yeah.
actually look at how that personality manifests physically then.
Let's do it.
Because the Weddizer guides categorize this takeover into 3 very distinct structural camps.
Hmm.
Let's start with what I'm calling soft drama.
Soft drama, okay.
Specifically, the romantic puff sleeve and the ethereal bishop sleeve.
Yes.
On the surface, they both sound like they belong in a fairy tale, but they actually serve completely different wedding ecosystems, right?
Completely different. The construction of the sleeve dictates the entire vibe of the event.
So let's analyze the puff sleeve first.
Okay, so the puff sleeve is arguably the most historically loaded style. It is defined by a rounded, highly voluminous silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
You usually see this volume concentrated at the shoulders, or sometimes ballooning out and running the entire length of the arm.
And the mechanics of the fabric are doing all the heavy lifting here. The Weddizer sources specifically highlight tulle, organza, and satin for the puff sleeve.
You absolutely need those fabrics.
Right. To achieve that shape, you have to use a fabric that can essentially hold air.
That is the mechanical secret of the puff sleeve, yes. Tulle, for example, works on a microscopic level, almost like a flexible scaffolding.
Oh, scaffolding.
Because the fibers are woven in this rigid hexagonal mesh, they actively push against each other.
Right.
This traps air and holds volume outward without adding significant weight to the garment.
Which is key because otherwise it would be exhausting to wear.
Exactly. And organza behaves similarly. It has a crispness and a natural stiffness. According to the guidance in the Weddizer articles, this specific architectural hold makes the puff sleeve the ultimate choice for a classic, fairy tale-inspired romantic wedding.
It provides that grand sweeping volume.
Right.
But volume comes with a lot of historical baggage. When we talk about puff sleeves, the immediate danger is falling into the 1980s bridesmaid trap.
Oh, the ultimate fear.
Right. You hear puff sleeve, and it is so easy to picture a bride being completely swallowed alive by shiny, crinkly fabric.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
So how does a modern bride walk that fine line between a whimsical romantic fairy tale and looking like a vintage costume?
Well, that is the ultimate hazard. And it is precisely why Weddizer provides such stringent styling rules for this look in their fashion section.
Okay, what's the rule?
The antidote to the 1980s trap is modernization through severe contrast.
Severe contrast.
Yeah. The 1980s aesthetic failed because it embraced maximalism literally everywhere. Massive sleeves paired with massive hair, a massive veil, and massive jewelry.
Everything was competing for visual dominance.
Precisely. Weddizer's philosophy centers on isolation. If you are deploying massive, voluminous puff sleeves, you must modernize the look by stripping back everything else.
So paring it down.
Exactly. You pair it with a sleek, minimalist hairstyle.
Oh, like a tight bun.
Perhaps a tight polished chignon, yeah?
Yeah.
Or very controlled, sleek waves. Your accessories become almost invisible. You let the architecture of the dress stand entirely on its own.
Ah, the bold red lip rule in action. I see.
Exactly.
Okay, so that is the structured volume of the fairy tale puff. Let's pivot to its softer sibling.
The bishop sleeve.
Right. The Weddizer guide describes these as long, flowing sleeves that remain loose down the arm but gather tightly right at the wrist.
Where the puff sleeve is about capturing air to hold a static shape, the bishop sleeve is entirely about kinetic energy.
Oh, I like that. Kinetic energy.
It is designed for movement and fluidity. Because the fabric is allowed to fall naturally before being reined in at the wrist, you get this incredibly elegant, continuous draping effect along the length of the arm.
And to achieve that drape, the fabric vocabulary shifts completely, right?
It has to.
We are trading the stiff, hexagonal scaffolding of tulle for materials like chiffon and lace.
You need textiles that surrender to gravity rather than fighting it. Chiffon is incredibly lightweight and highly breathable.
Which is great for outdoor settings.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Because of how it moves with the wearer and reacts to the environment, Weddizer highlights the bishop sleeve as structurally perfect for rustic, boho, or outdoor weddings.
It creates such a specific, almost cinematic image.
It really does.
The puff sleeve feels built for the grand cathedral or the gilded ballroom, you know. It holds its shape no matter what. But the bishop sleeve feels built for the forest, the restored barn, or the beach. It is a garment that breathes with the wind.
It connects the bride to the environment rather than isolating her from it,
Right.
which actually transitions us perfectly to the third category.
Yes.
Because if the bishop sleeve is designed to breathe with the wind, this next category is engineered to withstand a hurricane.
Yes. We are leaving the soft, flowing romance behind entirely here. We are moving into the aggressive architectural edge of the 2026 takeover.
Category 3.
Sculptural sleeves.
This is the choice for the bride, whose goal is an unapologetic high fashion statement.
Period.
Sculptural sleeves reject traditional softness altogether. They feature sharp, rigid lines, unique geometric folds, and they are frequently asymmetrical or heavily avant-garde.
They are quite literally pushing the physical, spatial boundaries of traditional bridal wear.
Exactly.
And the fabric requirements here make complete sense. The sources note that to achieve this avant-garde look, designers rely on highly structured textiles like macado or heavy satin.
Right, macado is key here.
You obviously cannot build a skyscraper out of chiffon.
No, absolutely not.
A sculptural sleeve made of macado must act more like a cantilever on a bridge than a traditional piece of clothing. It has to support its own weight, suspended in the air.
That is exactly the tailoring challenge.
Yeah.
Macado is a specific type of blended silk that is incredibly dense.
Okay.
And that density allows a designer to fold it, crease it, and manipulate it into sharp angles that will defy gravity and hold their exact shape for 10 hours straight.
Wow.
Weddizer notes that these aggressive silhouettes are perfectly matched to modern minimalist themes. You see them thriving in city weddings, industrial lofts, or highly contemporary gallery spaces.
But, I have to look at the practical reality of this for a second.
Sure.
If you are wearing a rigid, asymmetrical Mikado sculpture on your shoulder, everyday human movement seems like a physical hazard.
It can be.
How do you hug your relatives? How do you comfortably lift a glass of champagne or sit down for dinner? I have to assume that if designers are building these beautiful silk prisons, they are also engineering release valves for the brides wearing them. Are we talking about modular elements here?
You hit the nail on the head. What's fascinating here is that the stylists writing these Weddizer guides prioritize the human experience of the wedding just as highly as the visual aesthetic.
Oh, that's really smart.
You cannot pick a sleeve merely because the geometry looks stunning in a magazine editorial.
Yeah.
You have to account for your own kinetic reality during a 6-hour reception.
Right, you have to actually live in it.
Exactly. And their number one hack for the, quote, silk prison dilemma is absolute modularity. Detachable sleeves.
That is brilliant engineering.
It solves everything.
You get the breathtaking cantilevered Guggenheim photo at the altar, you maintain the rigid architectural perfection for the ceremony, and then you literally pop the architecture off so you can hold your champagne and actually dance with your partner.
It allows the bride to have two entirely different aesthetics and physical experiences without the massive expense of buying a second dress.
Yeah, that's huge.
You get the loud, amplified visual storytelling without sacrificing a single moment of comfort.
Let's dig much deeper into this execution phase, because this is where the Weddizer playbook proves its value.
Yes, the practical application.
If you are listening to this right now and trying to figure out how to translate these runaway looks to your own body and your own venue, the sources lay out a highly specific strategic matrix.
They do?
Let's start with their body type strategy.
So Weddizer approaches body types through the lens of proportion and geometry.
Okay, geometry again.
Always geometry.
Okay.
For petite brides, the overarching advice in their articles is to protect the natural frame from being visually overwhelmed.
Right.
If a bride who is 5'1" wears a massive shoulder-mounted puff sleeve, it artificially changes her center of gravity. The fabric wears her.
Yeah, she gets lost in it.
So the playbook suggests opting for subtle volume. Perhaps a delicate bishop sleeve that gathers softly at the wrist, or a very restrained puff that adds texture without adding width.
You want to maintain the architectural hierarchy. The bride is the foundation, and the dress is the framing.
Exactly. Now, conversely, tall brides naturally possess the vertical frame required to anchor incredible width.
Oh, that makes sense.
They can deploy those dramatic, oversized sculptural sleeves or massive puffs effortlessly because their height balances the exaggerated horizontal lines. It creates a very striking, balanced T silhouette.
And what is the geometric approach for curvy brides, then?
For curvy brides, the Weddizer guide specifically points away from the rounded volume of the puff sleeve and Haley recommends structured sculptural sleeves.
Oh, interesting. Why is that?
The logic here is brilliant. The sharp architectural lines of macado or heavy satin create a striking visual contrast against natural bodily curves.
Ah, contrast.
It offers a beautifully balanced, tailored geometry that highlights the silhouette rather than obscuring it in loose fabric.
That is a masterclass in styling.
They really know what they're talking about over at Weddizer.
But the matrix doesn't stop at body type. It heavily factors in the calendar.